The leadership culture you tolerate is the culture you produce. There, I said it outright. This episode is going to help you look at your team, your school, your ministry, or your workplace and ask, what am I allowing? What am I reinforcing? What am I unintentionally saying yes to through my silence? And more importantly, what would Jesus do with this culture? And what does he want you to do with it today? Let's dive in. Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in. Now, before we dive in, I want to quickly tell you about something that will bless you if you've been feeling stretched, unsure, or shaken in your leadership lately. It's called the Imposter Syndrome Blueprint, a short scripture-based audio training designed to help you silence self-doubt and lead with calm, Christlike confidence. If you've been battling people-pleasing, overthinking, or feeling not enough, this will give you the clarity and confidence you've been praying for. You can go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/blueprint to go and check it out. Culture isn't created through posters on a wall, value statements, in your staff handbook, or emails reminding everyone to be kind. Culture is actually created through what you allow, what you walk past, what you address, what you celebrate, and what you consistently do. So, I'm going to be open and honest with you in this episode because that is who I am. That's who I want to be for you. I want to be that person who's going to say, hey, you've been allowing this. It's time to unallow it. It's time to stop allowing these things, okay? So just hear me when I say that my heart is pure in this to help you, to coach you, to mentor you in this. But sometimes you need the hard reality and the harsh truth to start making these changes. Your team listens to your words, but they also follow your patterns. If you're tolerating gossip, people will assume gossip is acceptable. If you're tolerating disrespect, people will assume being disrespectful is normal. If you're tolerating low performance, people will match that level. If you're tolerating overwhelm and burnout, people will think it's required. This is especially true for Christian women in leadership who often avoid conflict because they don't want to seem too harsh or unkind or unchristlike. But let me tell you the truth. I'm here to bring you the truth today, okay? Avoiding culture problems doesn't make you Christ-like. It just makes you exhausted. Addressing culture problems with love, clarity, and courage, that is what really reflects Jesus. And one of my biggest aims with my whole podcast is to teach you how to lead like Jesus. When you study the Gospels, Jesus consistently corrected unhealthy culture. He addressed the Pharisees' hypocrisy. He rebuked dishonesty in the temple. He confronted his disciples when they argued about who was the greatest. He set expectations for how his followers should treat each other. And he also redefined strength, power, humility, and leadership. Jesus didn't tolerate harmful behavior to keep the peace. He set the culture through truth and grace. And as a leader, you're shaping culture whether you realize it or not. Silence becomes agreement. Inaction becomes endorsement. Avoidance becomes permission. The standard you walk by is the standard you accept. Now, there are 3 cultural warning signs leaders tend to ignore. So let's talk about these three big warning signs that often get brushed aside, but really they're red flags, and we should not be ignoring these red flags. Number 1, just letting it slide this time becomes always. That's number 1. Every leader has said this, and every team remembers it. Consistency builds culture. Inconsistency breaks it. So you've been trying so hard to build up this brand new culture, but then just this one time you let something slip, and then that breaks everything, all the hard work, everything that you've been working towards. So even just letting it slide once is not acceptable. Number 2, gossip, side comments, or harmful venting. That's another red flag, huge red flag. If people feel safe complaining to everyone except you, it's a cultural problem, okay? 100%, and you have to address it. 3, a lack of accountability. If expectations feel optional, all right, if confidence drops, your team gets confused, and leaders end up carrying everything themselves, accountability is not punishment. It's actually discipleship, and it helps people grow. The number one way that I always used to keep my team accountable is through annual performance reviews. There was a process where we would follow in terms of annual performance reviews, and was their responsibility throughout the year to ensure that they followed this process. So by come December, when we had these annual performance reviews, if they didn't do their bit in terms of accountability, then at the end of December, they would be pretty embarrassed sitting in front of me with basically nothing. So if you want to hear all about annual performance reviews, please go to episode number 35, where I talked about should you do annual performance reviews. And I actually also went through my exact process on how you can get that expert accountability throughout the year, and not only rely on end of the year, or in terms of that accountability. Your people need to get used to accountability. Okay, it shouldn't be a foreign concept that they need to be kept accountable. So how can you change culture without overreacting or burning out? Because that's a question that I quite often get. But Rika, it's hard work to change a culture. I just don't have the capacity for that right now. I get it, because I was there myself. When I walked in to my executive leadership role, the culture needed to change. And yes, I was new in that role. I was full of vitality, and I was full of all sorts of things going on, okay? However, it was the hardest thing that I'd ever had to do in my leadership role, is to change a culture. But how I did that was by following an actual plan. I came up with a plan of how I was going to do that, like a project plan. And systematically, I started implementing one thing, and then I implemented a second thing, and then I implemented a third thing. And I'd be happy to walk you through that. But obviously, I can't cover that all in this episode. But following a plan is going to be your number one way to start changing culture. So one day you might decide, okay, from today, I'm no longer going to tolerate gossip. When gossip happens, this is how I'm going to address it, and this is what I'm going to do moving forward. However, changing culture involves everyone. So therefore, you can start making these changes by yourself. And yes, leaders have a big influence on a team's culture. However, you need to bring in trusted people who have influence, because quite often there's one or two people who have more influence on your team than you yourself. You need to get those people on your side, and you need to start working with them. For me, that was my leadership team. I needed my leadership team on board because my employees trusted my leadership team more than what they necessarily did me. Only, not trust, maybe influence. I could rather say it like that. They had more influence than me purely because they were working face to face with those line managers, because they were not working face to face with me. Because quite often people think, oh, management don't understand because they're just not doing this work. They've been out of the game for 10 years or so forth. I get that because I was there too, and I had those thoughts as well. So get people that are trusted, that have influence, get them on your side, and then come up with a plan of action on how you guys are going to start shifting culture. Here's the part that most leaders miss, however. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to stop tolerating what's destroying the culture. So I'm going to give you 3 steps on what you can do to help you. And I'll put these 3 steps in the show notes as well, but I would highly recommend that you get a pen and paper handy. Step 1, clarify the culture you actually want. What do you want your team to be known for? Kindness, excellence, respect, integrity, communication? If you do not define it, others will. And so this is where you're going to have a meeting with your leadership team, and you guys are going to decide what's the culture that we want. Then, step number 2, start addressing one cultural issue at a time and with calm clarity. I would also highly recommend a whole team meeting where you bring everyone on board, where you and the leadership team address everyone and say, we have picked up that there is a negative culture in this place. These are the things that we're finding is happening: gossip, unkindness, bullying. And we really want to change this to a place where we are kind, where we expect excellence, where we have respect for each other, where we have integrity, communication. So you are weighing the positive versus the negatives, and you're painting this picture of actually having this culture where people like coming to work. But you're going to start with the biggest leak in the culture, and that's where you're going to start. Pick that one and start there. Say something like, hey team, I've noticed a lot of gossip, for example, happening, and it doesn't reflect who we are or how we want to lead. Here's how we're going to do it moving forward. And so then you set those simple expectations, and if they cross those boundaries, you have to follow through. Whatever you said is going to happen needs to happen, whether that's a written warning, whether that's performance management, whatever it is, but you need to follow through with that. That was the only way that I got people to change, was by actually keeping them accountable and by taking action if they did not. Step number 3, model what you expect loudly, clearly, and consistently. You cannot produce what you don't practice. You cannot practice what you don't. You cannot preach what you don't practice. Other way around. You cannot expect what you don't model. That doesn't mean perfection, of course. What it means is intentionality. And guess what? If you make a mistake, what does that mean? Accountability, an opportunity to come to your team and say, hey team, guess what? I slipped up on that. I'm taking accountability for this now because I know what I did was incorrect. I'm working towards gossip, also not gossiping myself or having more integrity. In that way, by doing that, you're teaching your team that it's okay to be accountable, it's okay to make mistakes, and that you guys will work towards this better culture together. This week, I want you to try a 30-second culture reset. Whenever you notice something off, a tone, a behavior, a pattern, pause and ask, if this continues, where will it lead? If the answer makes you tense, anxious, or even uneasy, it's time to address it. Culture grows in the seed stage. Don't wait until it becomes a forest. If this episode has you thinking, wow, I've been tolerating things because I was scared and to speak up and I feel uncertain about myself, then I want to invite you to take the next step. Come and grab the Imposter Syndrome Blueprint, which is a private, faith-filled audio training that walks you through overcoming self-doubt, fear of conflict, people-pleasing, and overthinking. All the things that make Christian women tolerate things God never asked them to accept. And inside the blueprint, you'll learn how to lead with clarity, not hesitation, set culture with confidence, communicate like a calm, steady leader that I know you can be, and step into your God-given authority with grace. You can simply go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/blueprint to go and check it out, to go and grab it. And it's an extremely reasonable price. So I know that you're going to get so much value from that. I'm praying for you for courage, for clarity, and for Christ-like confidence as you lead and as you move forward through changing the culture and through not tolerating this negative and toxic culture anymore. I cannot wait to hear how you have gone implementing these steps and how your meeting has gone with your leadership team. And I look forward to then chatting with you again in the next episode. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.